Welcome to New Earth Modalities with the Ascended Masters. I'm Danielle Rama Hoffman, joined with my guides, Toth and the Council of Light, and delighted to be co-creating here today in this masterclass with Barbara Bailey. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
And a very heartfelt and warm welcome from us to you for choosing to spend your time with us. I know that there's a lot of places that you can be hanging out, and really extending appreciation for your choice to be here with us. And in this masterclass, we're going to dive into healing the divide within and recalibrating to wholeness with the Arcturians. So I'm really excited about this topic. It's one that is also near and dear to my heart, for I see so much of this divide that we're going to be speaking about, and really the invitation to be bringing that back into wholeness, back into oneness. And as we're kicking off here, I also have a very special announcement, excited announcement that Barb's book, Healing the Divide Within, Moving Beyond Victimization to Wholeness, is available for pre-sale on Amazon. And I'm just so overjoyed and really excited, and so wanted to share with you that you can access the book if you're resonating with what it is that we're talking about here, that it's a way to get even more deeply into the topic. So, Barb, is there anything that you want to add about the healing the divide within, or really a way to set us up for what we're going to dive into in this masterclass?
Well, as far as healing the divide within, that is something that can show up in many, many different ways for different individuals. You might not even realize that you have a divide within, but some of the ways that they show up might be addictions, playing small, feeling there's a void, feeling like there's something missing. And for me, it was illness. So it's really just about coming back into your place of wholeness. And through the book and in this masterclass, we'll talk about some of the ways that we can get there.
Yeah, and when I contemplate the divide within, as I know, duality, separation consciousness is all based on, well, there's some separation, and that happens within us. And oftentimes we have two aspects of ourselves that are very strong, that may be like, for me, I'm very woo, and I'm also very grounded and in the 3D plane, and highly detailed and into the financial abundance and business, and those two sides of me for a long time was like going back and forth between the two before really bringing those superpowers together in wholeness. So that's an example from my life, and one that I often see in, whether it's the spiritual community or whether it's the that it can manifest in so many different ways. So are there some specific examples and of possibilities just to help individuals recognize, knowing that it is really a personalized experience? It's not like you're telling them what their divide is. Yeah.
Right. So, well, for me, it showed up in, I always said, here's professional Barb and here's spiritual Barb. And it's very funny because spiritual Barb was came along when I was a teenager, a lot sooner than professional Barb. And I actually went into the field of criminal justice. And I thought I could make a difference. And I had a lot of trouble in that field, in the sense that the whole field was divided. there was always that us against them. And I saw that in the field. And then later on, even as an educator, I still saw that divide with my students, that there had to be an us against them. Somebody had to win. And we just look around in society today, we're seeing the exact same thing. We are divided on so many different things, even putting aside all that's going on politically right now. There's division, and there's a need to feel like you're right, but you don't have to be right. You don't have to give your opinion. When you stand in your wholeness, you allow others to go through the process that they need to go through. But that chaos, it's like standing in the eye of a storm. It's not impacting you any longer. When you're back to that wholeness. When you're divided, you're in that chaos.
Beautiful. Yeah, and then it can feel like one foot's on the gas and one foot's on the brake, and there's that kind of or the two aspects of yourself, as you're using your example, as well. Okay, so I'm feeling the team coming in from my side, and I know that the Arcturians are present, and that they'll be sharing messages as well, which is really exciting, and inviting each of you to connect to the wisdom that's brought you here. For Barb also connects to an inner wisdom panel. So really calibrating that awareness that your inner wisdom has brought you here, and that there's something here for you, and acknowledging that your contribution by being here, that you're also not only receiving from what is being brought forward, but you're also adding to it. Hello, dear ones. This is Toth with the path of the Venus light, beings of light, and an ascended master panel, moving more into the forefront of this divine transmission. And as we're speaking about healing the divide within and recalibrating to wholeness with the Arcturians, there's an awareness of a shared mission that we at Divine Transmissions have, that you have as well with this healing the divide. And our sense is that each of you as well have this shared mission, which is the return of equality, the return of equanimity, what we speak of as divine to divine, where there really is this revolution in relationships that's beyond power over and power under. And so that's where we would begin to spiral into this recalibration to wholeness with the Arcturians. And so would you share a little bit about inner wisdom and the inner wisdom panel, because that also really honors the sovereignty that each individual carries as you're entering into this experience with us.
Yes. So the inner wisdom panel they've been with me my whole entire life, and they're with everybody. You have your own unique inner wisdom panel. It's just a name that I've given them. They're your guides, they're light beings, they're different aspects of you. They're made up of so many different beings and energies that are here to support you if you open the door and allow for it. The Arcturians lately have been a very prominent piece of my personal inner wisdom panel. And so they are really coming through today, and they are the ones that have given me some principles to live by. Something that wasn't mentioned earlier, my divide showed up for me with a whole body shutdown. So hopefully anybody here today, they can recognize divide in them early before it leads to a whole body shutdown. And for me, I stopped making bone marrow, completely stopped making bone marrow. And when I was in the hospital, I was free of computers, free of technology. And my panel was really able to come in and speak to me loud and clearly. And they had been something I'd shut down for a long time because there was no room for that in the criminal justice system. There was no room for compassion and connection to non-physical entities. So my illness actually brought me back into that connection with them. So that I'm sure there are many people on this call who have shut down their own personal inner wisdom panel somewhere along the way, especially if they were a child and they were told stop talking to imaginary friends or whatever, because that connection with the field starts with our imagination. And so I hope that triggers something in the listeners today about, oh yeah, I do have that inner wisdom panel. They're there. They've always been there with me. And then open that door back up if it's been shut.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also a wisdom to the divide in some ways, and an honoring of whatever your path has been up until this point, that even the contrast or the divide has been a wise opportunity to come into greater wholeness. And yet the message that's just shared there about, rather than waiting until the wisdom goes from that whisper or that light knowing, and then perhaps if it's not honored, it can accelerate to something that's more has more friction, or that you can't avoid, that the wisdom is shouting and using perhaps the body or using the physical plane experience to get your attention, that there are ways for that to happen much earlier. It's reminding Danielle of when she would get headaches, and it was usually related to a signal that happened much earlier that she wasn't listening to. And then she said, okay, headache, thank you very much. How about getting that message as like a light tickle on her third eye? So there's also the recognition that it doesn't have to get to an addiction that is a bottom, or unless that there's wisdom in that for your path. So we also don't want you to feel like there's something wrong if it does accelerate to that. Yet the invitation that you shared just there, the message that you shared just there was so powerful from your own experience, and sharing that, Barb, with each of us here, so that it doesn't have to get to the place that it got to for you necessarily. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was beautifully said. And that's what they tell me, is that there's wound wisdom. So whenever there's a pain, what can be gained from it? And I don't like to use the word lesson or anything like that, because lessons always, for me, it's been a negative connotation, that we have to learn something based on somebody else's belief system. But our wounds are our wounds, and we define our wounds based on the vibration that we're holding at the time. And for a long time, I was very angry about having to get sick and all that happened, but there was so much wisdom from that. And once I stepped into that place of forgiveness, of forgiving myself for ignoring parts of me, for carrying that divide, for living my life based on what I thought was expected of me rather than what I felt was right for me inside. Once that forgiveness came, everything opened up for me. Everything opened up.
Yeah. That the divide can create more divide, or the separation can create more separation. It's why we always invite you to include back in the wholeness, back in the source from which it came, any slower vibrations. So you're not trying to get rid of the aspects of you that you may not prefer, yet there's really this inclusion energy, so that you're not separate from the separation, that creates even a larger divide within. So there's one particular way of ignoring inner wisdom that we'd love to hear from the panel that's gathered about how to recalibrate this one to wholeness, for we know that this particular one is one that we see a lot, which is deferring to others, to know what's best for you, deferring to others, perhaps when there's a work environment and there's more than one individual, it can be this outdated way of being to say, okay, well, somebody else will do it. So what would you share about healing this deferral divide, which seems like it's an expression of not honoring the inner wisdom, that's one of the ways that the ignoring of the inner wisdom can go, because within it is, well, somebody knows better than me, or somebody else can do it, or there's a deferring of so many things.
Exactly. I think probably maybe for this community and my friends, we were at the metaphysical fairs all the time. Let's get a card reading. Let's get this. Let's have this question answered, something like that. Or at work, like you said, maybe not fully showing up because inside of us, we are not fully connected to the truth of who we are. We may be walking around in these human body suits, but we are a part of source, and we forget that. It's like like a spiritual amnesia. And unless you're born into a family that raises you that way, that you are a powerful spiritual being in a physical body at this time, there's no way for you to know that. And so your programming for your first 7 years are based on the people around you. And so unless you get that teaching early on, you don't know until something happens later on, and most of the time. And I think this whole pandemic and everything has actually been a beautiful awakening experience for a lot of people, because it's brought them back within themselves, what's important to them. So then coming back into your own power and knowing that your power is just as important, your say is just as important as anybody else's, but it's more important to you when it refers to you. So the Arcturians have been very interesting, where they work with an energy, they work with different energies and frequencies. And I never understood what the frequencies meant. So I feel them in a certain way. And the rose quartz ray is something that comes through, and it's just a self-love ray. And these energies are always around us if we're open to allowing them in and letting them go where they need to go. So if you'd like, we can invite the audience to settle in and maybe experience a little bit of the rose quartz ray. And the rose quartz ray should be around some place where they're giving their power away, where they're seeking feedback, where they're seeking direction. How do I do this? Or what should I do in this situation? It brings them back into a place of self-love and self-value, self-worth.
Yeah, so as this rose quartz ray is being broadcasted and this experience is coming forward, we're inviting you to tune into that place of the divide, or anywhere where there may be that pattern of deferring. For one of the messages that you've shared that the Arcturians have been bringing forward really strongly is that it is that inner wisdom, that it's not for us to say what's best for you or the Arcturians, or to give power away even to the beings of light, yet to really be in your inner wisdom. And we do have a sense that having a specific something in your awareness will assist this. So the deferral pattern seems to be the one that the Arcturians have chosen for the group, and we would invite you to have an individual one for you. So is that enough of a setup, or is there anything else that's coming? And then we're happy to move into the experience.
Yeah, I think if they just focus on any time where they felt like they were giving their power away, and it can be very small, a very tiny little thing, but there's always those patterns that run through. It's a behavioral pattern. And once you break that, identify that pattern, make the choice to break that pattern, and then come back into wholeness, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Arcturians aren't telling us what to do. They're assisting us along the way based on our choice. Mm-hmm. It always starts with us. So if they could settle in and just start thinking of a time or multiple times when they were giving their power away. And I find that it can be very helpful if they put a feeling to it, or emotion, or even thought energy. And we can focus on that space. And you should feel a beautiful, soothing energy. And Barbara named it the rose quartz ray because that's just what resonated with her. So you can give it any name you choose. But the ray brings in the feeling of self-love, of worthiness, confidence in you and the truth of who you are. To break any patterns of giving your power away, deferring to others. You just feel that energy breaking away around it. And the immense love from the Arcturians and from your own wisdom panel. For standing in your power and making the choice to take your power back in any time, place, or space where it was given away. And feel the love that you are being showered with. And you're being asked to know that you have the power to call on in this love for yourself, because your wisdom panel is always with you and they truly love you. I'm feeling shifts throughout my whole body. And it feels it's more for collective shifts. Quantum collective shifts that can happen, even though this is recorded at this time. Any time that it's listened to is just as powerful.
And we're inviting you to continue to bask in this rose quartz ray and to have a sense of your inner wisdom panel and the Arcturians and us as well, in alignment with your free will and your conscious choice, assisting you in the recalibration of to wholeness from this particular way of giving away inner wisdom to the outside, giving away power and deferring. We have a sense that there are one and possibly two more patterns that are asking to be addressed. And so we're inviting you to broadcast to us what else is a divide within, for we've named this deferral pattern and giving away power to a perceived outside wisdom as the first one. And then we're tuning into the group field and the individual field. And as you are broadcasting, like, what's your biggest divide? Then in a sense, we're having all that information coming in, and you may still have your eyes closed and be feeling the frequencies because this experience hasn't stopped. And then what's emerging? What is the next divide on the group level, the individual level that's being addressed?
What's coming in is when you wear masks to appease the group that you're with. Through my point, Barbara's point, there was the professional Barb and the spiritual Barb that we spoke of earlier. And she would go to Reiki shares and hypnosis class and all of these classes on the weekends. It was separate from who she thought she needed to be as professional. So there's always those two aspects of her that were never brought together. And there was a denial of true self based on, and it can be seen now that it was an illusion lie of how others would react, because how others react doesn't matter. It shouldn't even be on your radar. When you're in your truth, what's going on out there is there. responses or reactions to you. So if there are two parts of you that you're afraid to bring forward, even in the spiritual community, I would get a lot of times that you can't really be a spiritual person and work in a criminal justice system. That's way too masculine. So there's misconceptions in all different pieces. So you're invited to drop any misconceptions that you may be carrying of what others will perceive, and whatever masks you're wearing, to consider dropping those masks. To consider dropping those masks. And that can be scary. That can be very scary. But once you let go of those patterns of being afraid of what others will think, there's a huge sense of relief that comes in. So one pattern is wearing masks to appease others based on your perceptions of their reactions.
And there is an aspect of that as well, of shape-shifting to the group, or being pulled out of the signature energy and then shape-shifting into, it's almost like the group field being stronger than your own. So as we're watching what the Arcturians are doing with this particular pattern, of course, in alignment with your free will and your choice, is to have your own field be amplified in a way that you're there, you're you in all environments. And there are these universal truths that go beyond and carry into any different groups that you may be connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also very useful, as this is originally recorded around the 12/12/21 Stargate and the holidays, that you may be with family. So that's another example of a group where there may have been not only that shape-shifting to whatever the family expects you to be, yet also who they saw you as previously.
Exactly. And I see that there's, if you just can imagine like a column of light up and down, where you're grounded to the earth and you grounded into the higher planes, that energy is constantly going up and down. And I'm being reminded of how you can get sucked into into that. And that when you're centered like that, there's no need to join in. So not only are you not being sucked into the energy of whatever's going on, you're also not contributing in any way. You're not giving, your contribution is your energy. And I've seen it many times in my own family, when you stay centered and you're in love and you're letting others play out whatever they need to play out, it can fade off because of the space you're holding. And then when that energy dissolves some, then you can shift it into other conversations. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people can be stressed out about, is I don't want to get stuck into drama or any conversations that are not in my highest good.
Mm-hmm.
So staying centered and not, there's no need to give your 2 cents, even when asked, to show them love and allow them to be in the space that they're in.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's part of multidimensional leadership or energetic leadership, spiritual leadership. You're really leading from your vibration rather than adding from separation, more separation to something that's already in separation that just exponentiates or compounds the separation. Good.
Exactly. And energetically, they'll pick up on what you're doing. They might not understand what's happening, but they'll feel it.
Mhm.
And you stay as in the vibration that you wish to stay in.
Yeah, so the first one was this deferring, giving away your power, looking for wisdom outside of you. The second one was this caring what others think, putting on masks in certain groups, shape-shifting, and now this really aligned connection with who it is that you are. And then we're sensing a third one wanting to come in. So again, inviting you to be broadcasting your awareness, because we know that you're here again, not only as receiver, yet also to contributor, to contribute at this very important time. So as we talk about stargates and 12, 12, 21 stargates, they are doorways that go in two directions, like a gate can swing in two directions. And what's unfolding here with the assistance of the Ascended Masters and you is that there is this offloading of some of these two or three core divides off planet for future generations to learn from. And then there's the recalling in is one way to look at it, of what's required really to be living in New Earth, which it worked in the old paradigm to fly on the radar or to defer so that you weren't in your potency, because when you are in your potency and you're sharing your innate wisdom of universal truths in all environments where you reside, then that may have been dangerous, or there may have been shenanigans that unfolded. So what's the third one? And we may have already kind of tipped the hat a little bit on it, but what's the third one that's coming forward?
So I'm getting two different things, where the us against them, the power over power under, is absolutely a 3D human illusion lie. So as soon as you drop that, and you understand that there's no separation, what you put out is part of the field that everybody spiritually is part of. But there's also a piece on addictions and numbing out. And numbing out, it can be watching too much TV on the weekends, or drinking or drug use, or any of those things where you're looking for an outside source to numb feelings within you. And it doesn't take anything away. It's a temporary feeling or experience, and you're divided because you're denying your true self. When you're holding on to your true self, there's no need to numb out. There's no need for escapism. And I'm being told that there's nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed over or beat yourself up over, that the trends of society, the track that has presented itself is the track of work hard, success, different definitions for all of these things, where it's pulled us away from our truth. Our focus has been on things outside of us. So often you may find you're working crazy, crazy hours to get through a week, and then on the weekend you crash and burn. And it's because there's no balance, there's no connection to your inner wisdom, there's no honoring. For me, I knew something was up with my body and I was not honoring my body. So they said, okay, this isn't enough. You don't want to listen. And that was my agreement. I made that agreement. I was never a victim of circumstance. On some level, I made an agreement to go through that because my higher self knew that on the other side, that wisdom would be gained if I was open to accepting it.
Oh, so as the energies are running for this third, fourth application, just inviting a few minutes in the silence, if that's feeling aligned, to really be with the Arcturian frequencies and the new earth modality of source expression that has also been birthed through Barb, because it can seem subtle, like nothing's really happening, but there's a lot happening. So we sense a few minutes in the silence with your connection to the rose quartz ray, with your connection to your inner wisdom panel, with your connection to the Arcturians and to the ascended masters that are gathered here, to bring this divide into a recalibration to wholeness. Good. So the energy feels like the arc of the energy feels like it's starting to wane, and that you've received what it is that you're receiving, and that you can call upon this rose quartz ray as a focal point to continue to assist you in this masterclass and beyond. And are there any sensations or visuals that you were having as this transmission from the Arcturians was happening to assist a deepening into the integration of what's unfolding?
So the rose quartz ray, I see it coming down in the spiral around the body and the energy. And it's sort of like if you're holding any blocks in your energy patterns, it's cutting through all of those blocks. Again, it's your choice what to do with those blocks, but that tool is there to help you along the way. And even the word healing, they say that there's never anything fully to heal because you're a whole human being, a whole spiritual being, that we use the word healing in the sense that it's something that we can understand on the 3D human level with our mind. But with the truth of who we are, there's no healing because there's nothing broken. There's, if that makes sense. So there's language on our level and definitions on our level where they're completely beyond that. You are a whole human being, the only thing, a whole spiritual being, living in a human body, and the only thing holding you back are programs that are set in your mind or genetics, past life. That's why it's multidimensional.
Beautiful. And so you have this special offering, this opportunity to continue to work more deeply around transcending separation consciousness and wholeness with the heart wisdom package. And so would you share a little bit about what's included with that, and also vibrating the signature energy, because we know that many of you are vibrational recognizers, and so it's also a vibrational recognition, your inner wisdom that says, oh yes, this is that jewel that I've left for myself to find.
So the first part of it includes, it's a pre-recorded video that you get instantly. And in it, you're shown how to create your own vibrational expression template. And exactly what we just said about how we give our power away, we become different people depending on the group that we're with. It helps you to identify where you want to be vibrationally. And of course, most people want to be in the vibration of love, but how you get there and what you want to express, your core values, those are up to you. So we build that template based on your core truths of what you want to express. And it's been a beautiful aid for me in the sense wherever I have a difficult decision, I just go back to that template. And if it's aligned, it's aligned. If it's not, it's not. I still have that choice to go against what I expressed in that template. There's still a choice there, but it makes things so much easier because that's who you are. And it's a constant reminder of this is what you want to express to the world. And so you get that instantly and you work on that on your own. And then we all meet as a group on January 8th. And one of the first things that the Arcturians gave to me, so I'm a professor, very analytical mind. The first thing they gave it to me is, Barbara, it's simple. It is just simple. And then they gave me the 6 core simple truths. And so we'll go through that as a group. We'll go through those simple truths. And as you're hearing them being channeled by the Arcturians, if there's any place in your body that shows up as resistance, they invite you to open up to their energy to release that resistance. And when you walk in those 6 core truths, you can recalibrate back to wholeness.
Beautiful. And that it also be recorded if you can't attend live. And we just wanted to share a little bit about how it can be so perfect to be alive as a part of an experience. And it can also be so divinely orchestrated and perfect to participate in spirit the first time and then listen to what your spirit, your source, your energy has already experienced. And that's also a part of our bringing higher consciousness or wisdom around this potency of bilocation as really a new earth modality that we at Divine Transmissions use all the time, where there can be a perception of, oh, I really want to do this, and yet I'm busy on that day, so that must mean it's not for me. There can be an interpretation where, what if actually it's divinely chosen by your system to marinate in the energy, in the group field, on the quantum level, and then the rest of your system has a deepening into it. Just like if you are listening to this again and you experience this rose quartz ray and transmission, there'll be a deeper integration of it, another layer that happens. So we're hearing at least one of you go, oh, I really want to be there and I can't, I'm busy that day. And it's something that we really want to bring to the forefront, that wherever you are, whether you're in an experience, quote unquote, live, or you're doing something else during that experience, those can be really juicy ways that is very much bespoke to you. Good. So that seemed important for at least one of you to hear. And we sense also that you're aware of that that's part of New Earth, which is beyond time and space, that you can be, you're here with us live as we're recording this masterclass. And then as you're listening to it, as it becomes available, you get a deeper level of that. So you may also have a sense of being here, of like, oh, wow, I feel like I've already been here. I've already done this. It's so familiar. That's why we really chose those few minutes in silence. There weren't a lot, but to honor the space of all that's being shared. And so as we're wrapping up here in the next couple minutes or so, we'd invite you to pick up that special offer if it's feeling coherent and aligned for you and your inner wisdom council is directing you in that direction. And as we're wrapping up here, what we sense there's another piece about the inner wisdom council, and maybe a way of connecting to the inner wisdom council, or any final messages from the Arcturians or you.
The importance of being in the present moment and not having to overanalyze everything. There's a time and a space for that. Like I said, I'm very analytical. I have that logical mind, but I have to step back and just allow in the presence, and you'll hear it. And it's not just, you don't have to be in a meditative state. You don't have to be practicing any of those things. A simple walk in nature opens that door, because there's no expectations of you while in nature. And you get to be completely free of who you are. So if you have that opportunity to get out in nature and just freely open up to the experiences around you, you'll start to hear those whispers, and then they get louder and louder and louder.
Mhm. And if you happen to have some rose quartz in your life that you may want to hold or touch, that rose quartz as another way of integrating what's been shared here. And if you don't have rose quartz in the physical, you can also connect to the energy of the rose quartz.
Absolutely. Self-love.
Mm. And so this offloading that was happening of these patterns has completed, and you have also received some new frequencies, vibrations, ways of being to fill the space with more energy of you as you have completed and healed the divide within and calibrated to greater wholeness. So we also remind you that the book is available for pre-sale on Amazon, and we're so delighted that you have not only received a lot from this masterclass, yet that your knowing, your inner wisdom called you here to be a part of this larger planetary healing of the divine within, and this the divide within, and this larger recalibration to wholeness. So we know we say that as we're stepping aside often, that we're extending our love and appreciation to your contribution to the evolution in consciousness, and we really mean it, that it takes all of us to evolve consciousness. And so thank you, Barb, and the Arcturians and the Inner Wisdom panel. Anything else? Any closing words?
I was just so thrilled to share this, and I just want to be part of bringing us into that 5D unity consciousness. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All is light and love, and we are all.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.